I've been waiting a long time to say this, Zach. 3 years of recording this podcast, and we're finally here. You finally took me up on my advice on years of petitioning you to watch Game of Thrones. And now, House of the Dragon Season 2 is among us. Mm-hmm. And it's time to recap Season 1 and bring it to the people. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Story Archives. I'm your host, Mario Busto, alongside
the other host, Zachary Newton. Welcome back.
We are here. We're going to go over Season 1, House of the Dragon, sort of recap. It's been a long time since that show was out. And we're going to go through all the major events. We're going to go through all those things. And we're going to recap Zach's experience watching both Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon for the first time. Maybe less so Game of Thrones. We might have something planned for that in the future. But more talking about House of the Dragon, because today is Saturday, June 15th, and tomorrow is the Season 2 premiere. We're going to be bringing you weekly episodes on House of the Dragon. And remember, this is not a book readers podcast, so we are not jumping ahead. There are no spoilers. We don't know what's going on. If we're spoiled, it'll be because one of you out there put something in the comments to mess with us. But nonetheless, I am so excited. I have been diving into recap after recap, breakdown after breakdown over the last few days, and I'm ready for the political intrigue world of Game of Thrones to return. Zach, how you doing?
I am doing good. I'm very excited for season 2. I'm going into this a little spoiled. I didn't start watching Game of Thrones until recently. If you've been listening to the podcast, you probably know because Mario's mentioned it a bunch. But I got to binge all of Game of Thrones, so I'm lucky there. And I actually watched the first episode of House of the Dragon when it first came out, which was like 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Crazy. I liked it. I just didn't have HBO Max because I had a trial. So I've been able to binge all of season 1. It is a great show. I am looking forward to season 2 quite a lot. Tons of character building going on, and it like all of the relationships of everybody. It's a little difficult to keep track of, but it leads for a lot of interesting storylines and a lot of overlap. So I'm excited to see, where things go in season 2, and I'm excited to actually be in a position now where I can suffer along with everybody and wait week by week to get each episode.
Welcome to the real world, pal, where you have to wait and agonize week after week.
That's my preference. I like the pain.
Yeah,
I like the pain.
Welcome. Well, you did, enjoy a solid 7-season binge of Game of Thrones, and without commercial interruption. Just knowing you could jump to the next episode, the next season without having to wait a year in between. I mean, it's pretty dreadful when you see, by the way, there will be spoilers in this episode from all of everything that's happened so far in Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. But like I said, not a book readers pod, so we will not be spoiling anything ahead. Only what's happened up to date on screen. But yeah, it was pretty dreadful to see Ollie stab Jon Snow, and then you have to wait to see what happens there. But, all right, let's get into it a little bit here. A lot goes down in season 1. We're going to kind of set the stage for season 2. Not sure how long we'll run this episode, but we'll have just kind of a geek fest here and talk about everything here. First and foremost, season 2 is going to be centered all around the Dance of Dragons, which is called, I may know a little bit about the book lore because I do listen to a bunch of podcasts of people who are, really in depth with that stuff. Mm-hmm. And HBO, by the way, has dropped a few different tools for people who want to catch up. We can link all of them. They have a map of Westeros, which is pretty detailed. You can click on all the cities and whatnot. There's a dragon index where you can keep track of all the dragons, because the dragons are going to be like the size of the military, essentially, or Air Force for each of these opposing armies. And then there is a family tree of the different core key families in House of the Dragon this far, which is pretty useful to use. I'm actually using it right now as a guide for this episode. But season 2 is going to center completely around the Dance of Dragons, which kicks off when Luke is killed by Aemond to end season 2. to end season 1, where Aemon beats him to the Baratheon stronghold, right? And he gets there before Luke is able to get there. And of course, as we know, Aemon, after Daemon's wife passes away, his second wife, not the one that he squashed with a stone when she fell off her horse. She dies, and which is by the way, with the names of some of these, Laena Valerian, who actually Viserys was offered her hand in marriage when she was like a little girl. Remember when Emma dies and he's going through the different things? Strategically speaking, Viserys' best move would have been to marry Laena, not Alicent. And so because Viserys goes down the road of falling into Otto's trap, which, we can kind of understand why, all of this begins to ensue after that. But Aemon takes Laena's dragon, Vhagar, which happens to be the largest dragon currently in existence in the show. And Vhagar is the massive one that chomps on Luke. And Syrax? Who owns Syrax?
I think it was Syrax, right?
Arax. Syrax is Rhaenyra's. It's a very similar name too.
You're right.
So Rhaenyra side, the Blacks, right? This is going to be the Blacks versus the Greens. The Greens are the High Towers. The Blacks have more dragons technically, but the Greens have the largest dragon. And when you look at the size comparison chart of these dragons, the only dragon that would have pretty much given Vhagar the Arax treatment would have been Balerion, which was Viserys' dragon, which was also Aegon the Conqueror's dragon. So there's that, which is Aegon the Conqueror is the famous Targaryen ruler who pretty much who created that 400 years of prosperity, right? For the Targaryen dynasty. But I think that's going to be like key in season 2 is like just the number of dragons on each side and how they're going to be able to combat that.
Yeah. I mean, compared to Game of Thrones, it's incredible. And I will say, like, the dragons in this show are really good. Like, I'm into them. I've seen dragons in other shows, and I've just never gotten too into it. But I like it. It feels right for this show.
Well, if I can stop you there, I think it's because House of the Dragon uniquely, like more than ever, these dragons each have their own personality to the point of the art design of like the way that they look. Right, the character design. Like if you look at Vhagar's, the way Vhagar looks, like he almost looks like an old grizzled, like Gandalf the Grey type dragon. He has like almost like a beard going on, and it's because he's the oldest dragon. And then you'll see some of the younger dragons, just how sort of young, straight out the egg they are. Which, funny enough, in Game of Thrones, Daenerys has 3 dragons, famously, right? Yes. Those 3 dragons essentially are like baby dragons compared to these dragons.
Yeah.
Because Vhagar is, I don't know how old Vhagar is, but.
Well, I mean,
Daenerys has like
we at least know Vhagar and Meleys were one of the, or 2 of the 3 original dragons that Aegon the Conqueror used.
Yeah, he is. All right, just to give you an example of the scale of Vhagar. Vhagar, which is Aemon's dragon, the one-eyed crazy bastard son, not bastard literally, but Alicent's crazy son. Which, by the way, I really enjoyed his character when he was a kid, but then the moment he claims Laena's dragon, he has this power, that this kind of like power high, that hits him, which leads him to the whole scenario with killing Luke, but. In that scene, I don't know if you know this, Zach, but he wasn't intending to kill Luke in that scene. He was more.
I did catch that.
Yeah, he was more like a cousin bullying a younger cousin type thing. He wasn't expecting it to end in that, because if we know anything about Aemon's character this far, I don't know what's going to change in season 2. He's a very measured politician. In fact, one would argue he's much more he would have been a much more formidable king on the throne than his older brother Aegon, who's busy pretty much whoring around King's Landing and going to underground children fighting rings, Which, by the way, did you catch? There was like a blonde-haired kid in that fighting ring,
I
kind of like
did.
in a
Yeah,
corner.
they hinted that it was one of Aegon's.
Yeah. By probably the two most confusing characters in all of the show, the two Erics. So you have Eric Cargill and all right, let me get the chart up here.
Eric.
Eric
Are
and
they
Eric.
not both Eric Cargill?
They're both Eric. They're both Erics, I'll tell you that. And they are both Eric Cargill. Now, Eric with an A, that's the way we're going to talk about these guys in season 2. And Eric with an E. Eric with an A, I believe, is still showing fealty towards the High Towers right now. While Eric with an E is the one who brings the original crown of Viserys to Rhaenyra and swears allegiance to her. Yeah. Interesting thing going on right now, because we talked about dragons, we talked about who's on whose side right now. Pretty much the entire old Kingsguard pledged fealty to Rhaenyra. They acknowledge her as the true heir to the throne, and they have pledged their allegiance to her. So I think that ends up being key. The only two remaining ones that I can think of is Kristen Cole, who's the new, he is the new head of the Kingsguard, which is a name for this. He is the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. And Eric with an A, I believe, stays behind as well. So we'll see how that plays out. But you can kind of see like the honorable side of the kingdom is choosing their side, you know? Even though you can kind of see Alicent's side, but it's all due to a misunderstanding, right? It's all due to her thinking that Viserys' dying words was talking about Aegon, her eldest son, right? Rather than the actual original vision from Aegon the Dreamer or whatever, the Dreamer Targaryen who had that prophecy hundreds of years before.
Yeah, I kind of thought when Viserys was dying, for a moment he thought he was talking to his daughter, because he seemed to be a little like generally confused on who's in the room. Rightfully so. I mean, he's missing an eye and half of his face. But what did you think he meant? Was he just talking more about the story, or do you think he actually changed his mind and wanted his son Aegon with Alicent to become king?
I think one of the key things, like one of the things that the show, the lessons that it tries to teach you, is what weak leadership causes. And although Viserys has moments of strength, like when he walks up and he's like half dead, because there's parts in the season where you're just like, how is this man still alive?
I've been watching the entire season waiting for him to die ever since the beginning of the show. And
then, I mean, he's cutting pieces of his body off to stop the rot. All these things are going on, and he does have his triumphant moment when he's coming down, and he sits on the throne for himself, and he makes a decision. That's the decision he makes to back Rhaenyra again, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of lack of decision making, he comes to the throne because King Jaehaerys does not want to make the decision for himself of who should be on the throne, right? Which leads to the vote between him and Rhaenys. Rhaenys is married to Corlys Valyrian the Sea Snake, who is pretty much one of the most powerful military leaders, if not the most powerful military leader at this point in Westeros, because he has the navy, like he has he controls the seas pretty much.
Yeah.
And she does not come to the throne. She becomes the queen that never was, type of thing. And Viserys takes the throne because of it. Viserys, this entire series, is always kind of putting off the difficult decision, and then occasionally will make a sort of sober-minded decision. All in all, he's not a bad guy. He's not a bad dude. He wasn't somebody who didn't respect the position that he had. He was just somebody who was so cautious that it would take him forever to make decisions, or even not make the decision at all and let it just kind of happen, of let the cards fall where they may. Yeah. But if we do know anything about him, if he does think somebody's a threat to the throne or to the stability of the kingdom, he will not go with them no matter how close he is to them. For example, he banishes Daemon twice, right? he doesn't
Mhm.
allow Daemon to have a hold on the throne, even though technically Daemon would have been the other male, like the only other male
The
heir.
closest male heir to him. Yeah.
Exactly. But instead, he gives it to Rhaenyra because he thinks Daemon is a threat to the stability of the kingdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that he was speaking about his son. There's just no way to me in the end of the season he was speaking about his son, because anybody could see in that room that the kid is a mess. Even he's like screaming, like in the middle of the city, that he doesn't want to be king. You know?
Yeah. pretty bad. Not a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although he does warm up to the adoration of the crowd pretty quickly when he's in the coronation ceremony. But sorry,
I mean, it's kind of hard not to. You get like a power high, in situations like that. I mean, like you're the top dog in all the land, pretty much. It's a lot. It's a lot of responsibility, but I mean, people they love it. I don't think Viserys, was actually trying to get Aegon to be king. Like I can't see that. He was so against it for such a long time in this season. And like his strongest moments, like you pointed out, with him walking half dead up to the dinner and all of that to defend Rhaenyra. I just can't see him going back on his word. So I think it's unfortunate that there's now a coup in place and they've installed Aegon as king. So this will lead to a very interesting season.
Whose side are you on,
2.
Zach? Are you part of the blacks or are you part of the greens?
I am on I'm on Daemon and Rhaenyra's side.
So you're on the
that's the one I
blacks.
like.
You're on
Yeah,
Team
man.
Black.
Who's on Team Green? Like what?
I
I'm gonna
think
alienate us for that.
I think people might begin to emerge as Team Green, but yeah, largely there's nobody I know who's on Team Green for the most part. But it is a fun little dynamic to have when people are splitting
Oh yeah.
allegiances, right?
I feel like they do a decent like this whole show. So far it's just been about like succession, from King Jaehaerys down to Viserys, and like who's gonna take over. They're lacking in male heirs. And I feel like the show. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, or if you feel very strongly in the opposite direction, but I feel like they do a pretty good job here of not villainizing one side over the other too much.
In Game of Thrones? I mean, my bad, House of the Dragon.
In House of the Dragon. Like Otto Hightower, I think is a piece of shit.
Well, he's a great character.
Alicent, he's a good character.
He's
Alicent,
a great character. I love Otto Hightower.
Alicent, I think, like, I don't like feel like she's just the bad character or the bad side. Like I feel like people like Alicent, and though I absolutely do not like Aegon and Aemon because they're just turds the entire show.
I still like
like they're good characters. Like the characters is interesting. Like they will be fun to watch on screen.
Yeah,
but
100%.
If like thinking of them as a sibling or a relative, like guys, you're a piece of shit too. Like come on.
Aemon is quite literally. You can rearrange the letters of his name and spell Daemon. He's the new and improved Daemon type.
And they look so similar too, by the way, like the jawline, just everything. Like I feel like if they ever needed to cast Daemon young,
yes, it would have been
this guy would have been great. Like,
well,
Aemon,
in sports, there is like matchups. In basketball, for example, you have LeBron and you'll have, Kawhi and KD and all that. And then usually what happens, actually, this is probably not a great example because stars don't guard stars for the most part. But nonetheless, there will be like, I got that guy. Like I'm going to fight that guy or I'm going to defend that guy, right? Because I'm the best matchup to defend him. If any power struggles in a current season 2, it's gonna probably be Daemon versus Aemon because the only dragon on Rhaenyra's side that maybe even has a single chance against Vhagar would be Caraxes, because he's the second largest dragon. Although that big ass neck, I just feel like Vhagar's gonna chomp that thing in half. I mean, he has this long giraffe neck. That's like Caraxes' like defining characteristic is that long neck. but I think Aemon is just undoubtedly going to be. So he kills Luke accidentally, but you almost can't admit that you killed him accidentally because then you look like an idiot, you know?
Yeah.
I'm thinking like in his position, not like in reality where you could just say like, no, I was just messing around with him because he chopped off my eye when I was a kid and I've always held a grudge against him. But like, you know, Aunt Rhaenyra, I didn't mean it, Aunt Rhaenyra, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah. Actually, no, I guess there would be step siblings, right? They'd be step siblings.
Well, they're basically like brother, sister, sort of.
Yeah, there they are. Dynamic. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it gets very brother sistery on the show. So much so that
there's a lot of incest and perversions.
Let's go to the incest guide in the show so far. We got Aegon II, which is the current king. He is married to his sister Helena, who is kind of odd but seems good-natured for the most part. They have 2 kids who we have not seen on screen yet. You have Rhaenyra is married to her uncle, who is 3 times married. He kills his first wife and she is like the Lord of the Vale, pretty much, or the Royce family oversees that area. I think it's, what is the name of that town again? Runestone is what it's called.
Yeah, Runestone.
He kills her to get out of that marriage, ends up marrying Laena, who Viserys passed up because he was like ill. She's too young. Like she's like 11 years old. Like I can't do this shit.
So let me go to one with a few years old. A few years on her.
Let me like go up 7 years here.
Yeah, really. Go to Alicent. Big difference when there's that big of a gap.
I mean, literally, it was him with like a little girl walking through the garden. Alicent was like already a woman at that point. You know, like you can definitely see, you know, why he would do it, especially since he wanted an heir immediately, right? Mm-hmm. Also, she's the one coming to his bedchamber after, you know, Otto's he's like the little finger in this series, right? He is the one who's kind of like pulling the strings and he is the political intrigue master. He is the spy master. He has the little, you know, the little King's Landing peasants coming to him with information type stuff. Mm-hmm. Anyways, Daemon marries Laena. They have 2 daughters. Those 2 daughters end up engaged to Rhaenyra's her 2 eldest sons, right?
Yeah.
Jacaerys and Luke. Now Luke's dead, so probably Joffrey will be with Rhaena now. Laena dies in childbirth. She actually does not successfully give birth to that 3rd child, and does that sort of odd dragon cremation in the middle of the season, which I wasn't entirely sure of, but that seems to be some sort of Targaryen. I think she was gonna die anyways, and so she just wanted to be one with her dragon or something. I don't know.
Just like doing it by your own hand. I mean, it's probably better than having somebody else kill you, I guess.
After the time skip, we kind of see Rhaenyra is kind of turned in, like she's been sleeping around a little bit. She goes from Kristen Cole, who becomes, you know, darling knight, to douchebag in one time skip. You know, after Rhaenyra turns him down on running away with him, he pretty much completely turns his back on her to the point where he's just kind of lost all sight of who he used to be. Now he pledges fealty to Alicent, right? He's kind of like as equally obsessed with Alicent now as he was with Rhaenyra. Mm-hmm. Rhaenyra takes up with Harwin Strong, who's known as Harwin Breakbone Strong. Talk about a hell of a nickname. He's like rumored to be the strongest man in like 7 kingdoms. She has quite obviously all of her sons with him so far. And he is brothers with the clubfoot, as they call him, Larys Strong, who is sort of kind of like the evil Tyrion Lannister character in this series. He's like a mix of Tyrion and Varys if they had a foot fetish. Which
that's exactly right.
Considering he was born with a deformed foot, I guess that's why they call him the clubfoot, which is why he limps like that. Mm-hmm. I guess that kind of makes sense why he's obsessed with like proper feet, you know?
Yeah, that's a valid point. I actually didn't think of that. I just thought he was a pervert.
Yeah, well, I mean, he is a pervert. I didn't know where that scene was going at first with the whole feet focus thing.
He's
but
got two fingers in there, just focused on the feet. I'm like, right.
Yeah, I think we're due for like a few more uncomfortable feet scenes in season 2. But as you know, the thing with Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon is they kind of do load up on sex in the first seasons type of thing. Mm-hmm. But then there's just no time for that bullshit. Like later on, like in the second seasons, like there's less. In Game of Thrones, like the early seasons, you're all over Littlefinger's brothel, like all over the place. And then once you get to like season 3, it's just like yeah, this just doesn't happen anymore because there's just too much going on in the show in
Mhm.
that sense. Anyways, Larys kills his father and his brother by lighting Harrenhal on fire, which is also, if I don't know if you know the lore of Harrenhal, but it is cursed to shit. Like Harrenhal is absolutely cursed. Like things always like horrible things always happen in Harrenhal. That is just a common theme in the show.
Interesting. No, I didn't know it was really cursed. I kind of want to know a little bit more about why and what else has gone on there.
Well, you do some homework and get back
I
to us
will.
on the next
I will
episode.
have to do some homework.
You said there was something in season 1 that absolutely bothered you, that you hate
Yes.
when shows do this. Do you want to
And-
talk about that a little
And
bit?
you actually just brushed over it a little bit ago. So as we're going through the show,
Mhm.
there are some small like time skips, time jumps, which I'm totally cool with because we gotta tell stories. You gotta.
What did you
build
think
up
of the
world.
actor choices of the way they switched
Well,
up the act?
all right, well that's what I'm getting to. It was the
Okay.
10-year time skip that bugged the shit out of me. Like I can't stand when I grow attached to a character.
The actor
And then
whatnot?
the actor of the character, yeah. And then we get a big time jump, and then that person is just no more. It's like when that happens, for me at least, I feel like I have like the show just reset itself in my eyes. So I'm like, ugh, all right, back to the beginning. Now I've got to see if I even like this character or this actor. And that bugs me. I will say though,
Did you say you grew attached to Millie Alcock's character, who's the young Rhaenyra?
the young Rhaenyra. I grew attached to her. She feels like a very like she's what Daenerys
2.0.
yeah 2.0 basically.
Or
I liked
maybe
her.
maybe 1.0.
Yeah,
It's a prequel.
yeah. I think Daenerys' character was a bit better from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, she grew on me in this, and then we got the big time skip, and she changed. And for the entire episode, it was like episode 6 or 7 or something like that, where that time skip happened.
That's where Rhaenyra is pregnant and she's like bleeding all over the floor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It took me like half that well, maybe not half that episode. I'm exaggerating, but it took me a while to figure out like who I was watching, what I was watching.
Oh, you didn't?
I thought for a moment, I thought I was watching Rhaenys, like a flashback of Rhaenys Targaryen or something like that. Like that's what it felt like to me, and it's just like it seemed so foreign.
No, see, where you should have known was when her kids actually look like the father. That's when you should have known.
Yeah, yeah,
when
exactly.
Alicent goes up to Laenor and says, "Keep trying, Laenor. Maybe the next one will look like you." I mean, they're just coming out with black hair, like just straight up looking like Harwin Strong's kids.
Well, it bugged me, but I will say, I do want to say though, like because I mentioned that comment to you and on the podcast, I think,
early on,
yeah, while I was like in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I've gotten through it and we're getting towards the end, I finished season 1, ready for season 2. Like the new Rhaenyra has grown on me, so I'm back to enjoying it again. Still miss the original a little bit, but I've accepted it. It's okay. So if you watched the season and you felt the same thing, I think we're gonna be in for a good treat in season 2.
I felt the same way when it happened because you really do grow attached to the young Rhaenyra, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do. Later on, I kind of understood why they did it. You needed this more mature Rhaenyra, and she just has this young adolescent face to her, that I don't know if the same scenes, like I can't imagine her pulling off that scene of being in the middle of childbirth and being called to go to the Queens. Like I can't imagine her pulling off that scene the way Emma Darcy, who plays the older Rhaenyra, pulls it off. And I think Alicent's jump was a little more what is Millie
acceptable?
How old is Millie Alcock?
I don't know. I haven't looked it up.
She's 24. So, and then Olivia Cook.
Yeah, that's who
plays
she is
Alicent.
now.
She's 30. Alicent was more you could get away with it because they were almost.
I almost didn't even notice it for a moment. Like actually, no, with her jump.
Hold on, they do. No, my bad. They do change the actress. What am I? Am I on crack?
No, they did. Alicent changed,
but
like,
but it
but it
was
was much more acceptable. Like I said, I almost didn't notice it.
it was a more dramatic. My bad, I got confused there for a second. Because I'm looking at all the other pictures right here. Sorry, folks, been 2 years. Olivia Cook though, like it felt almost like that would be what Alicent ends up looking like, you know?
Exactly.
While Emma Darcy doesn't look like what Millie Alcock's gonna look like when she turns 30 or 28 or whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how old Emma Darcy is.
Emma Darcy?
That's her name, 31.
Wow.
This facial structure doesn't.
Yeah, it was very jarring for me.
Yes,
like that.
yes,
like
I agree.
That's part of
completely.
why I really disliked it, and it really hit me. It really reset me back to zero, and I'm like, all right, halfway through the season, now I've got to see if I like it again.
But then I also
do-
couldn't have
I do
taken
agree.
older. I couldn't have taken older Rhaenyra seriously as this young
No,
Rhaenyra either. You know, so it's
the portrayal of that character, those two different ages, is very well.
They both needed each other. Like at the end of the day,
Yeah.
those two perfectly played both stages of her life. You know, and that. Yeah, and then like it didn't take me long to kind of like, the thing is, I knew they were switching actresses in the middle of the season, so I was expecting it at a certain point. But yeah, by the time you get to the end of the season and you're ending season 2 with that serious look from Rhaenyra after finding out the news that Luke has been killed, you just realize almost immediately like this one was for Emma Darcy. Millie is for the young, kind of like going through her teenage years, figuring out, traversing the fact that her father's always wanted a son and she's kind of the reluctant heir, you know, battling that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was your big nitpick?
That was my big nitpick. Honestly, that was the biggest thing that I disliked about it. But like I said, like when I got to the end, I was saying to myself, I'm like, you know, like I get it. Like you had to do it, because I don't think that the young Rhaenyra could portray, you know, the older version of her as well as this actor.
Yeah, I agree.
It just wouldn't happen. But it did make me, you know, think of something, and I was curious to get your thoughts on this, because I'm a little conflicted on which, I guess, method of storytelling like I prefer. So like when I look at this, like I feel like there's two ways that they could have done it. One, which is what they did. It was like, all right, hey, here's a bit of some story. Here's a little time jump. Here's some story. Here's another time jump. Here's story. And here's a massive time jump. Do you prefer that, or
I hate flashbacks, bro? Like,
that's the other one. That's where I was going. I'm like,
I don't hate. Let me take that back. I don't hate flashbacks, but for example, and we can do a little housekeeping right now. I'm watching Presumed Innocent on Apple TV. I'm watching Defending Jacob now as well on Apple TV. I like things to play out in real time on shows. Maybe that's because we have had a string of shows that have abused the time skip button, namely Foundation all over the place.
Yeah, pretty much.
Also Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, also Constellation. Just time jumps and alternate realities to the point where now I kind of roll my eyes at the you know, when it happens. So Defending Jacob, the way they edit it is they're skipping forward in the case and then they come back to present time. And I hate when you skip me forward and tell me what's going to happen, pretty much, or even hint at what's going to happen. You know, I feel like as audience members, we're too smart these days. We've seen so many stories. And so there's very few twists and turns left where you can actually catch us off guard. And so that's why I like to stay in real time for the most part. Yeah. I didn't mind this time skip. If we're going to do a time skip, get it over with and keep me moving forward. Yeah. I don't want to go back and find out.
Keep going back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah, give, for the love of God, don't take me to like a flashback of Viserys as a child when his father told him something key and he told that. You know, like, don't make that up. But I don't know. That's just where I'm at right now. That's how I feel about it right now.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at as well. Like I was weighing the options. I'm like, if they didn't do this time, because the moment the time jump happened like that, I was like, man, they could have done like flashbacks. And then I'm like, yeah, but I hate flashbacks. I actually don't like them that much. Like there are some occasions where they're done really well. I actually think defending Jacob and what they did, like the way that they do that show. Now, I'm saying this from having watched the entire show. I think it's done tastefully. I don't think it's not as bad as something like Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Monarch Legacy of Monsters is like the epitome of horrible time jumps and flashbacks and flash forwards, on and on and on.
Yeah.
Did not like that part of Monarch, but I think defending Jacob, if you watch it, is done decently. So.
I couldn't help but remember there's a scene. There's a scene where. Okay. Never mind. I was gonna make a comment because I feel like there's a common thread between Arya Stark and Rhaenyra Targaryen. And
Arya Stark and Rhaenyra, really?
Yeah. That me personally is I think they're doing something in the show. I'm trying to recall. Arya often talks about Visenya. Remember, Arya doesn't traditionally fit into the role that they would want for her as the princess, right? She doesn't want to be a lady. She doesn't want to be somebody who's married to a king and sitting in a dress. She hates going to sewing class and shit like that. Like she doesn't like that. Yeah. And she often mentions Visenya and Rhaenys and these fierce dragon rider princesses types, as her inspiration, right? And so I feel like they kind of do that with Rhaenyra a little bit. In the beginning, even when she's riding the dragon in the beginning of the show, of season 1. But I think there's just a common thread there. Let me pull up my notes.
I think you're onto something. Like there is that familiarity of Rhaenyra kind of being like Arya in the sense that, I mean, kind of, I don't know if I would call her a tomboy necessarily, but just like she's active. She doesn't like sitting on her butt. She likes to go do things, go explore, ride a freaking dragon, which is pretty epic. So yeah, I can see some parallels there for sure.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about. I think we covered a lot of season 1, right? Or we'll set the stage here. We have Rhaenyra is now married to Daemon. They have their kids. They have them that they're going to be married to each other. So they're strengthening their bloodline there. You have Alicent, who is currently widowed, but her son is on the throne, Aegon, who's probably the most reckless of all of her children at the moment. Aemond is he's more fit to be king, honestly. So I could imagine a storyline in season 2 where maybe they want to depose Aegon and put Aemond on the throne instead. But we'll see. Aemond does seem to accept the fact that he won't be king, and he seems like a dutiful servant, but we'll see how his character changes after having killed his cousin. Laenor, Rhaenyra's ex-husband, and by ex, he is supposedly deceased. They faked his death because he was gay and didn't want to be a part of the lifestyle anymore. Yeah. And Daemon and Rhaenyra wanted to get married, so Laenor was like, "Hey, look, I want to go off and kind of live the warrior life with my guy over here. So if you could just fake my death, I'll go over across the seas." So Daemon isn't completely heartless. He actually does spare Laenor, and that's the shaved head guy who's rowing the boat. I don't know if you caught that, Zach, but it was pretty obvious that Laenor is alive. I don't know if he comes back in the show. He's not a bad dude. But I don't know if he ever plays a role because technically he should be dead. So I don't know.
I don't think he would come. I don't think he would be. I don't think there's any need for him to really come back.
No, I don't think so either. If it does, it would be like that he's across the sea and Essos like comes into play, geographically speaking, like as the different armies that are everywhere, right? You have Old Valyria, which is the old Targaryen stronghold, which is all the way over in Essos, like over the Narrow Sea, over the Summer Sea, near the Dothraki sort of territory. Yeah. You have seemingly Rhaenys is on the side of Rhaenyra. Rhaenys is married to Corlys, who is the one who helps Daemon in that fight with what's the name of the guy? The crab feeder.
Crab feeder, yeah.
What did you think of the crab feeder fighting scene and that whole sequence with Daemon and him single-handedly taking out the army? What'd you think?
It was pretty epic. It was another one of
it's hard
Viserys' moments of bad decision making and not helping, just letting it play out. But
it's hard not to like Daemon in this show.
Yeah,
it is very hard not to like Daemon.
There's moments early on in the show where I don't like Daemon because I feel like I'm not supposed to.
You're not supposed to, yeah.
But I like him. Like Daemon is.
Just remove Daemon from the show. I think
Daemon's getting Jon Snow territory for me.
Like in terms of how much you like him.
In terms of how much I like him, yeah.
Daemon is like, he's just kind of the wild card, you know? He is the wild Jaime Lannister mixed with duty in some sense, you know?
Yeah.
I really am interested to see what happens with his character in season 2. Because after marrying Laena, you kind of see this more scholarly Daemon, he's reading a lot of books, and he's kind of more reserved, right? He's become a war hero, a decorated war hero, right? Because that's part of the reason that war campaign happens, is that it was like to prove a point to his brother, right? And then he has the whole scene where he gives his crown to his brother, and he gets rebanished again after taking Rhaenyra on a night on the town, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. I'm interested to see where his character goes from here. But yeah, that's one side of the party. They currently have Rhaenys has a dragon, Rhaenyra has a dragon, Daemon has a dragon. Jake, what's his kid's name? Jakaris has a dragon. They're loaded up on dragons, while the other side is just less so. But
they've got Vhagar.
They got Vhagar, but when it's Vhagar versus like 5 dragons, we'll see, if Vhagar can fight 5 dragons at once, That's the thing.
Yeah.
The High Towers have the crown. They have an allegiance with the Baratheons. I think the allegiances are going to play a huge role in season 2. The Baratheons have sworn fealty to the High Towers at this point. Why? Because Aemond is going to marry one of the Baratheon daughters. The Starks are to be determined. We have not seen what happened with the Starks in season 1, I believe. So I'm hoping the Starks play a more major role in season 2 as we find out that Jake goes to Winterfell. I would assume Aemond didn't have time to go to Winterfell, or the Starks, being more dutiful, may have been more like the Kingsguard, where they stuck with their original allegiance.
Yeah, the Starks. Yeah. It's interesting. I didn't realize until like towards the end of the show, Rhaenys is the daughter of one of the. She's from the Baratheon bloodline, right?
Who? Yeah, her
Rhaenys,
father is a Baratheon. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's
her mother. My bad, her mother.
It's crazy how. Yeah, you're right. It's crazy how tied together like all of these families are. And one of the things about these shows is it always amazes me like how quickly an entire world can just be thrust into what feels like a civil war, like in nearly every situation. Because you just like, all right, you got one house going up against another house, and you got all of these other houses that pledged allegiance to them, and it's just crazy. It just scales so quickly.
I think we're a little spoiled as modern day Americans.
Yeah.
I think we take peace for granted, but most countries understand that war is like almost always around the corner in some way. Let's not forget the High Towers have the purse. Okay, they control Old Town, which controls also the religion. That's like where the major religion is housed in Westeros, and also like the university, like the where all the scholars. Remember Samuel Tarly? That's where he goes to learn, right? To be what is that? What is it that he goes to become? He becomes like
a maester.
A maester, exactly.
Yeah.
That's where the maesters are trained. So the High Towers he's essentially Tywin Lannister in this, and he also has an older brother who I'm sure we will be learning more about in season 2.
Yeah. Well, one thing I still don't know is what on earth Viserys had, like what was wrong with him. I was surprised that like nobody else caught it. Like I thought it was something that like Allison might catch or his daughter might catch, whatever disease he had that caused them to uh,
I thought it
cut
was.
off
I
parts of
thought it
his
was.
body.
I thought it was grayscale. The
You think?
the famous disease that Ser Jorah gets in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it could have
No.
been, but I feel like it would have spread so much quicker. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe that it might make sense
Minor
to see
case
that.
grayscale, pal. I don't
Yeah,
know.
something like that.
Who knows? Who knows? Favorite parts of season 2, favorite characters, and what are your predictions heading into season 2? I mean, I said season 2 accidentally, but
Yeah, I know.
go for it.
Favorite part of season 1.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or parts. You don't have to
yeah,
isolate it.
it is kind of tough to narrow that in on one specific thing. I think, I haven't done this for any of the Game of Thrones things, trying to actually sit down and think about what my favorite piece is or part is. I really liked kind of seeing Damon's introduction early in the season. Like I liked his rampage on the town in episode 1. That was quite interesting. I think that set a very interesting tone for his character. And then I liked I think I actually liked Eamon going to get Vagar. Like it was interesting to see such a massive giant. I liked that part quite a lot.
I
It's
liked
really
him
hard for me to
of all the
like
young
pick
kids in
one
the
specific
show.
thing.
Of all the young characters, like when they show all the kids like when they were younger, Aemon was my favorite by far.
Yeah.
Of the actors, of all of them, I thought he was the strongest of the whole lot. He also
Mhm.
does a time skip. Like everybody else missed puberty, but Aemon shoots up. He looks like a grown ass man. At the end of the season, while
Yeah.
Luke and Jake are just like,
Yeah.
we don't have our deep voices yet, and our cousin Aemon here is a giant.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
he is pretty big.
it's that Vagar, man. It's being attached to Vagar. You just grow faster than everybody too.
Mm-hmm.
Aegon just looks like a prick, doesn't he? He just looks like Joffrey, 1.0.
Early on, Aegon looked like a prick. I think he looks less like a dick now. That he's a little older. Like when he's being crowned king. I did not like him young. I thought we were on the road to have another Joffrey. So yeah.
My one nitpick with the season, you know what it was?
No, what was it?
It's that Rhaenys didn't just torch everybody with that dragon right at the coronation.
She could have.
She's imprisoned. Okay. They're usurping the throne. She would have had every right to torch everybody on that stage. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to reprimand her for that shit because she's killing Alice and she's killing the new king, and Rhaenyra is going to come back and take the throne.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, now you're going to have a multi-season long war occur here where probably thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people are probably going to die. All right. Because almost no one dies in House of the Dragon, right? For the most part. I mean, people die, but not like core characters,
Yeah.
Or,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like Game of Thrones yet in that sense, I guess.
Yeah, the Sea Snake's brother's head gets chopped off, but like,
Yeah, but he was like in like 2 episodes. Like he made
Daemon
an
hasn't
appearance.
died yet. You know what I mean? Like Daemon could die.
Laenor's not even technically dead.
Exactly. Daemon could die, but he hasn't died. But I'm talking about like those episodes where a beloved, Robb Stark dies, and you're like, oh,
yeah, that was gut wrenching when that happened.
Yeah. By the way, Corlys, he survives his infirmity that he was dealing with, his injuries that he had, and that is going to be huge in season 2 because he is still the most feared, pretty much military strategist. I mean, they literally call him the Sea Snake, and he is the richest man in Westeros. So he has the navy, he's the richest man, and he's the master of Driftmark. So that's kind of a big ally to have in your hand. Could he switch allegiances? Remember, this is a guy who doesn't care that his grandkids are not technically his blood, right? Rhaenys has the issue with the fact that his kids are not really his blood. And he says history doesn't remember blood. They remember names.
Yeah.
You know? And the fact is, Rhaenyra's kids carry his name, Valerion. Now, if she, for some reason, switches that up on him, maybe he goes and switches allegiances. But I don't know.
I don't know that she would switch their names upon on him, because the agreement was that the kids would carry his name, but when they ascend to the throne, they would take the Targaryen name.
Exactly.
And he agreed to that. So like I do not think Corlys is going to change allegiances and, you know, flip flop over to like the High Tower and Aegon's side or anything like that. I just can't see it.
Yeah. We're watching the recap in the background as we do this episode, and I just love Aemon's face when he realizes he's killed his cousin accidentally. It is think about it. Rewind it and just pause on his face there. And tell me this is not the exact face you would have, because he's laughing, he's having a good time, and then all of a sudden,
boosh,
the shit hits the fan. And it just goes to show you that he controls Vhagar, but he doesn't actually control Vhagar.
No, he doesn't. He's a dragon. I mean, even
Lucerys.
Even Lucerys was having issues. They're both like, obey me.
Well,
but the dragons are gonna do whatever they want.
Think about it. Vhagar doesn't get mad unless Arax doesn't hit him with a little fire spout to the face.
Exactly.
Right? So that pisses off Vhagar. It's like, you know, somebody slaps you in the face, like jokingly, but it gets you heated. Exactly. So look, man, what am I expecting in season 2? I'm expecting all-out war to break out. I'm expecting some political intrigue from Larys, the clubfoot guy. And, man, I'm just expecting a lot of carnage in season 2. I'm expecting a ton of, like, set pieces. Like, battle set pieces.
Yeah.
That we can actually see. That are...
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I was able to watch it on a good monitor in the middle of the night with no other lights on, so I was able to see a decent amount, but everything else was definitely dark in that one.
I remember watching it live and being just like a silence.
You're like, what's going on?
This is an audiobook. All right, this is great.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Yeah, difficult to see. Yeah, Aemon definitely has that oh shit face. Though, like, I mean, like, I don't know, man. Like, I kind of feel like what do you expect? I mean, like, you draw your sword on your
I don't think he was
cousin or something like that. Like, you're gonna take his eye, you're gonna torture him and try and like attack him and kill him. He's a little boy, like, compared to him.
Yeah, look, I just don't think he was expecting it. I think this is their, you know, Targaryen version of horseplay, you know?
Yeah.
And I just think that, you know, it got out of hand. And how do they spin this? Do we immediately, when we come into season 2, is it the immediate aftermath of this death? Are we going straight into war planning? Does Alicent like talk to Aemon and say, did you mean to do this? You know, do they reprimand him? Or not that you can really reprimand him at this point. What approach do the High Towers take? Do they say that Luke instigated it? You know, who the hell's going to believe that with Vhagar? I mean, like, who's instigating anything with Vhagar? There's nothing more terrifying than seeing Luke pulls up to the Baratheon stronghold and you see that's lightning and thunder, and then all of a sudden you just have that shot of Vhagar, who looks like a freaking 747 aircraft carrier, just get over there.
You flew a biplane over there. Yeah.
Well, you think about it. I mean, it's like you have all these old wars, right? In this time, like, just imagine yourself in Westeros prior to the Targaryens coming over the sea.
Okay.
And you're fighting battle on the ground with swords and shields and trebuchets and whatever else you got. And then a dragon pulls up. A dragon is literally like a machine gun or a nuke. It's just, it's so broken. Dragons are so broken.
It's advanced warfare, that's for sure.
Yeah. It's like cheap warfare.
I would not I mean, like at that point, just give up.
Oh, that's what
Like,
happened.
what are you gonna
Why do you
do?
think? Why
I'm
do you
gonna
think the
hop up and
Targaryens are
down with
power?
my sword and try and
Hold
stab
on,
the dragon or something.
why do you think the Targaryens are in power? Why do you think that the only
Oh,
reason that they're not
100%.
in power is because the dragons like pretty much ceased to exist?
Yeah.
So it even got ridiculous at the end of Game of Thrones when the Lannisters were just coming up with all these dragon, like kill dragon stuff. Like, oh, look at this spear. We're gonna spear this dragon out from 1,000,000 yards away. Remember that?
I remember it.
Think about it. Daenerys was reckless with her dragons. I mean, she lost 3 dragons in almost no time. Like just a span of nothing. She lost almost all of her dragons.
Yeah.
I know that one of them is still alive, I think, but you lost one to the walkers, right? And then you lost another one to that spear.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody else has a dragon. You can't be losing your dragons like that.
No.
Anyway, that's my
it makes me wonder if there's still eggs hidden around.
Oh, for sure. I think
in
so.
the lands.
I think so.
Yeah,
for sure. Any closing notes? Anything you want to talk about looking forward? Or
I mean, looking forward to season 2. Like, yeah, I mean, I can't envision season 2 without like tons of warfare and a lot of battles going on. I don't think we're gonna like open up to a battle scene or something like that. Like, I still feel like it's gonna stay fairly political. Like, I mean, Rhaenyra was waiting for.
Well, Rhaenyra's going straight to the battlefield, dude.
Rhaenyra. Well, I guess what I was gonna say was she was waiting for, them to take the first punch, right? Like, she didn't want to start it; she wants to finish it. So I definitely think she'll end up going to battle, but I still feel like we're gonna. I don't know. Like, I don't think we're gonna hop into a battle in episode 1 of season 2. I feel like we're gonna still have an episode.
Take a stand. Tell us what you think.
I think we're gonna have an episode of her trying to still muster up some other houses on her side, and then we're gonna go to battle. Like, I don't think we're ready to fight yet. Like, we don't have enough people.
Remember, it's not gonna just be like one battle either. It'll probably be several battles.
A lot, yeah. I mean, all of Game of Thrones is an all-out war.
Yeah,
there's just different battles going on.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But no, it's definitely gonna start to turn into that Civil War sort of mode here.
Okay.
I feel like we're gonna lose the other kids, like the Valyrian kids, at some point through the battles here.
What do you mean? Which ones?
The ones that are not like the ones that are from Strong. House Strong.
All of Rhaenyra's sons are gonna die. Is what you're saying?
Not in season 2. I just feel like we're gonna
One
slowly lose them. Like, they don't. I know.
There's only 2 left.
I know, and I mean, for as much as I don't like Aegon and Aemon, well, at least Aemon is a much better swordsman in many ways. Like, he like the other guys seem like kids still. Like, they haven't grown up much at all. They're not very skilled.
Well, they're not gonna send a little kid Joffrey out there.
Well, no, but I mean, like, how many time jumps are we gonna have in the show? I don't know. Like, who knows how this could progress?
I would assume there's like one more time jump, but who knows? This is a war. I don't know if you can time jump past a war. So I don't think we have one at all. I don't think her sons are going to be central figures. I think the only way they become central figures is through marriage alliances, and she's already married them to Daemon's daughters. So I'm not sure who. I don't know if that's the best way. I don't think that's the best strategic decision there. If you're wanting to make like alliances, you want to marry your children off to other families, like to the Starks, to the Tullys, to the ones from the Iron Islands. Those, like, all the different major houses. Maybe somebody from Essos. I don't know. Just different political alliances to bring this war to an end. But I feel like the longer the war goes on, the more it benefits the Hightowers, to be honest with you. If Rhaenyra is gonna win it, she has to win it quick, in my opinion. But
yeah, she. I mean, ideally. I don't know. I do think Aemon will probably be installed as king at some point. I don't know if that's because, like you said, Aegon's deposed. I would say maybe he dies or he gets killed or something like that. But I feel like Aemon is a much stronger character to get behind.
Who do you think wins this war? Who do you think at the end of the House of the Dragon ends up on the throne? Which side of the family?
Aegon.
Aegon, so
Yeah,
Alicent's son.
maybe.
So
But
you think he survives all this and at the end of the day still ends up on the throne?
no, I just meant their side. I feel like they might win. Which and I don't like saying that because I would much rather see Damon and Rhaenyra win in the end.
Mm.
But maybe this is a bet for the show that we could do. I'll take Alicent's, family line here, and you take Rhaenyra's.
Well, Aegon and Helena had a kid already. 2 of them.
Uh-huh.
Are they boys or girls? What do they have? Let's see.
Jaehaerys and Jaehaera.
So a boy and a girl.
Yeah.
I don't know. Could we end up the series where like we've had so much bloodshed? Marry your youngest to my, and let them sit the throne. Pretty much. Like
I would feel robbed.
Well, we have that storyline of Alicent and Rhaenyra are estranged friends. Like they're no longer friends, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they can ever become friends again, considering now that Aemon has killed Luke.
Yeah.
I think that's very difficult. I think if they were going to ever become friends, that couldn't have happened, and then usurping her position on the throne could not have happened. So I don't know. That will be a theme though, where the fact that these two were best friends growing up and now they're mortal enemies.
Yeah.
Also, I'd love to know like how much further does Alicent go down this descent to retain power? She's becoming her father. I want to know if she continues this way or if she continues, because part of her frustration is that she's lived the lady life. She's done everything the religious way, and Rhaenyra is acting out, sleeping with everybody she can find, and still gets to go to the throne or whatever her issue with Rhaenyra is, right? I mean, Rhaenyra really is just doing her thing. It's not like she chose her life for the most part. She, was put on the throne outside of her choice, even though she was definitely down for it. So does Alicent continue towards this bitterness, this self-pity that she has, and it goes completely to the dark side? That'll be pretty interesting to see. Will we have another cursed wedding? Will we have, somebody?
Bro, the weddings in these shows are horrible, man.
There's no wedding in Game of Thrones, in the Game of Thrones universe, that doesn't end with at least one death. When Daenerys and Khal Drogo get married, there's people dying left and right. The Red Wedding, Joffrey. Was it Joffrey's wedding? What was that? What was it that Joffrey, when he dies? What the hell was that?
Was it his birthday?
I think it was his birthday. I don't know. The wedding of in this series, right?
Yeah, this one as well. I mean, you had, what was it, Laenor's
boyfriend.
lover's face just pounded in
by Kristen Cole.
Yeah. Very violent.
All right. Zach, any closing thoughts from you? Anything you want to do before we end this podcast?
Do you have your leading favorite character in the show? Mine is Daemon, followed by Rhaenyra. Those are my 2 favorites at the moment. And then if I had to pick somebody in third place, I would be flipping over to the other side and I'd say Aemon.
I've got 3, I guess. I think I have 3 favorite characters.
All right.
Daemon, Aemon, and Otto Hightower.
Okay.
Those are probably my 3 favorites. Otto brings that political intrigue that I love about Game of Thrones. Daemon brings that reckless, you don't know what the hell he's gonna do, badass type to the show. And then Aemon I have no idea what direction Aemon's gonna head in, so he's also a wild card.
Yeah, he's truly the wild card. Daemon, I feel, is less of a wild card at this point. Like, I feel like, I don't know, like we kind of know where he is a little bit. You don't think so?
No, I think we're gonna see a return to like crazy Daemon in this. The thing is like Daemon's the kind of guy who's like,
he loves war.
Exactly, he loves war. He can't stand to be like in times of peace. So like he has to have something going on. I think there might be moments in this series where Rhaenyra gives him an order, and you start to question about who's the one really in charge of this army. Is it Daemon or Rhaenyra?
Well,
So it is-
She already did give him an order, and he disobeyed it in this season, where she told him to stand down and basically nobody do anything until she's, I guess done giving birth, and he just completely ignored it.
What is it that he did?
He was, putting together plans, and I think he was going to have people fly out to, like, I guess try and secure some support or something like that.
Yes. I think he was right in doing so, though.
I agree. I mean, it definitely needed to happen, but the point I'm just trying to make is that he's already disobeyed orders. So, like, I think you're probably right. That's a pattern that we're gonna see continue. But like, I don't think he's going to flip flop over to like some other side or something like that. Like, I feel like he loves Rhaenyra. And I think he
no. And by the way, he has a duty to his family for the most part. Even when he stole the egg, he gave it back. He didn't cause a big stink. At the end of the day, he loved his brother, He loved his brother. He really never tried to usurp his brother. And even with all his wildness, he does put the family first in multiple ways. Anyways, I was going to make a comment about Daemon, but I can't remember what it was now. Anyways, that we covered a lot in this hour, I'd say.
We did. There's a lot going on, but I'm excited, man. It's one day away. You ready for this?
Are they dropping 2 episodes tomorrow? Can you look that up real quick?
Yeah, I can see.
Or is it like a longer episode? While Zach's doing that, I'm watching Presumed Innocent with Jake Gyllenhaal. Highly recommend it to all of you out there. We might be doing a pod on that weekly, possibly. I'm also watching Defending Jacob, and Zach has already finished watching that. So we got a couple other shows that we're thinking of getting to you guys, but definitely highly recommend you guys check that one out. What's the news on the pilot?
It's 1 episode a week, so there's just going to be 1 episode tomorrow.
I bet you it's like a longer one probably, but we'll see. All right. Zach, want to close this out?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of House of the Dragon. I never thought I'd say that.
Yep.
On Story Archives, you can find this podcast anywhere you find podcasts, Apple and Spotify podcasts. You can visit us on YouTube at SoapBox Podcast Network. You can visit our website at soapbox.house. Email us at contact@soapbox.house. And there is a link in the description below to sign up for our newsletter.
All righty, y'all. We will see you tomorrow night on episode 1 of House of the Dragon Season 2.
Heck yeah.
Let's go.
Let's do it.